we had started to perhaps overemphasize how much it costs to live in different communities and talking about the price tag of where to live, and stopped talking as much about what makes a community actually worth living in.
For another installment of Closer Look across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Big thanks to Sid Sixero for joining the program last night. He had a successful debut live on YouTube yesterday. I caught some of it. It was fantastic. You can like and subscribe, the Sid Sixero Show. Okay, let's talk about beautiful places to live. Yeah. I think that we live in one of them, but hey, it's subjective, right? Some may agree, some may disagree.
That's what I love about what we're going to talk about today. A lot of people like to brag about how they live in the best city. Their hometown is the best, because of this, because of that. And the Globe and Mail does this annual series where they try to explain what actually is the most livable city in the country. And they have a whole bunch of data that they pour through and that they use to come up with different rankings for why this city is the most livable. And they also take into consideration what stage of life you're in. Like, this city is actually most livable for someone who's about to leave college, who's about to retire. And there's all kinds of things that go into it. And it's fascinating, too, because it has a tool that you can use to search your cities, to search different criteria. And, so you could be thinking about, well, where does my hometown rank, or where does the hometown that I want to be in rank? Yeah. It is fascinating. But you're right. I mean, there's always a debate about where people think is the best hometown. Yeah,
it's the furthest thing from just a simple top 10 list.
Yes, right? Yeah, and they take into consideration things like, housing costs, of course, which is obviously the big one, but things like, access to health care, transportation, things that make us – and they also rank them by different sizes of cities. So it's not just the full list. It takes into consideration population. So cities up to 100,000, cities above 100,000, cities above 500,000. Right. But it's a fascinating tool. For me, it's more of a talker, and I'm anxious to hear kind of the reaction they get as well.
What makes one city more livable than another? That's the question the Globe and Mail has set out to answer over the past few years with an annual series that crunches a whole lot of numbers, from housing prices to healthcare access to climate resilience. The end result is a very detailed, data-driven ranking of Canada's most livable cities. It's a fascinating exercise and includes a searchable tool that allows you to look up specifics about your hometown or the hometown of your future. Joining us to talk about it tonight is James Cowan, the investing and personal finance editor at The Globe. James, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
James, I want to dive into some of the details, but can we just start from the beginning? What triggered this idea?
So a few years ago, we were talking about how people discuss where to live in the country. And we realized that with housing and the affordability crisis being a big issue that was top of mind for a lot of Canadians, we had started to perhaps overemphasize how much it costs to live in different communities and talking about the price tag of where to live, and stopped talking as much about what makes a community actually worth living in. Like, you can afford to live there, but would you want to? And we looked around, and we are certainly not the first people to do a ranking based on livability, but we were at the time, and I think still, the only ones doing this exercise in Canada. And really, it was myself and the members of our data journalism team sitting down and saying, what matters in terms of actually when you're choosing where to live, what factors go into that consideration, and then seeing what numbers we could actually find to put against it. As you say, we really wanted to do this as a project that we actually use statistics and hard numbers to try to quantify what makes the city livable. And we've come up with currently 58 different indicators. It gets a few more every year based on feedback from our readers. We think gives a pretty good rounded picture of what makes a city worthwhile to live in, enjoyable to live in, supportive of your family.
It is fascinating, James, because, for a lot of people, livable will mean, can I afford to live here? That's one thing, but this goes well beyond that. What are some of those factors you take into consideration?
Well, we look at everything from the local economy, how many people in that community are making more than the median wage in Canada, to considerations like how many restaurants are there, how many libraries are there, Transportation is a huge factor in terms of both what the access is to public transit and what your commuting times are, but also walkability. If you've bought a house, are you actually able to walk to some of the restaurants and other places, things in your area? And the other things we take into consideration are our data partner, Environics, has access to some surveys that are done of the populations in all of these communities. And so it's not just a consideration of the hard numbers in terms of what's actually available there, but also how the people who live there feel about it. So, for example, in healthcare, one of the considerations is your access to a primary care physician, or your access to being able to have a minor ailment treated within 3 days, which are hard numbers. But we're also asking people how healthy do they feel in their community? What's their mental health like? And so and same thing for safety. We have an actual quantification of the safety of the community and the likelihood of crime occurring in that community. But do the people in that community trust the police? Do the people who live in that community actually feel safe? So it's a really rounded perspective on these different cities.
James, let's talk about the data for a sec. Where does it all come from? I'm guessing lots of different places.
Yeah, so we, as I referenced before, a majority of it comes from Environics, who've been a great partner for us, who have a wide stream of data, both in terms of, as I said, hard numbers, but also some quantitative data in terms of how the people who live in there. But then we looked at what they had to offer and filled in the gaps. So we talked to the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation about the affordability of rents. We go to Environment Canada because one of the big considerations for everybody is what's the climate like. You will notice that in our overall ranking, BC does fairly well, and it's no secret that BC has slightly milder winters than we do in Ontario. So we reach out to them as well, and we're constantly adding new partners as we move along and figure out what our readers want to know.
Mm-hmm. How do you and the data team decide which factor weighs more than another?
It was a lot of trial and error, but it really is sort of sitting and going point by point and asking ourselves, is this a crucial thing for a person when they're deciding to live, or is this a nice to have? So, for example, when we're looking at proximity to different kinds of community amenities, we started with grocery stores. You got to eat to live, so you want to have grocery stores close to you. There are other things, movie theaters, libraries, which are all enjoyable and make for a better quality of life, but they're not as important to sort of the day-to-day living. So we index them slightly less. And the other thing we've done is we recognize that depending on who you are and what stage of life you're in, it's slightly different. So we also tweak the dials a little bit and offer sub rankings for retirees, young professionals, new Canadians, and in each of those we've slightly weighted differently to indicate what we think matters most to those subgroups.
And that's one of the most fascinating parts of the whole thing, James, is that you take that stuff into account, the various parts of where people are in life, whether it's starting a family or transitioning into retirement. Can you speak to that a little more?
Yeah, we didn't want to. We obviously have a list of what we think are the 100 best in the country, 100 most livable, but we know everything's a little bit different for each person. And depending on where you are in your life, if you are a retiree, if you're a little bit older, you might value, for example, proximity to healthcare a little bit more. And you're a little less likely to be worried about whether or not your community has a vibrant nightlife, for example. So we adjusted things slightly for retirees. We know for young professionals, you probably do care about a strong nightlife, but you also care about a strong economy because you're worried about getting your first or second job. And so we parceled out sort of different life stages. We also recognized that there is this sort of mushy middle in life that we don't talk about a lot, where your kids are getting a little bit older. You don't need to have as many, parks and libraries and those kinds of things to support afternoon and weekend activities. But you're starting to think about your life again. So we have cities that we call for midlife transitions, where we're focused on whether or not there are lots of people in that age group around to support you in your community as you're moving on. So we've done our best. And then the most important thing is readers themselves can dive in and look at each of these communities. We offer the sort of 58 factors that we rank on, but there's a whole bunch of other demographics that we list as well to let people sort of go and compare and think about what matters most to them.
It really is service journalism at its best. It's amazing. It's not just you're laying out the details, but you're allowing people to use them and interact with this tool. How gratifying is that, James, seeing all these people from around the country using the tool?
Oh, it's tremendously gratifying. And the thing that's really great is it's when we started it, we said one of those things that, journalists always say is we want to start a conversation with our readers. And in this case, it's actually true. We have started a conversation with our readers, and every year we hear from them and they tell us we're crazy and they tell us we've done things wrong. And we respond to that. And one of the changes we've made this year is we have sub rankings now based on the size of the city, because some people don't want to live. North Vancouver is our number one city overall. It's part of the Greater Vancouver area. There's a whole bunch of people who just big city living is not for them, and they want to think about smaller communities. So we want to be able to respond to that. One of the biggest responses we got in our first year was that we weren't taking climate change into account, that we were recommending all of these communities on the coastline of British Columbia that are particularly prone to some of the challenges that might come as the climate gets warmer. And so we've got that factored in now as well. So really, it has been a give and take with our readers over the last 3 or 4 years.
That's great. All right, so let's get to the nitty gritty. We're in Ontario. We have local news outlets throughout the province who are all going to take a look at this and see how their communities rank. In terms of Ontario, who came out on top? Ottawa, is that right?
Yeah, Ottawa was both our top city overall and our top major city, and which means the top city with a population over 500,000, and our top city on Ontario. And if you talk to the people in Ottawa, a couple of factors went into that: relatively strong economy, thanks to the federal government, and a still present tech scene, but also its closeness to nature and some of the ability to get out of town fairly quickly. The city also has a lot of really strong amenities, a strong park system. So yeah, Ottawa did very well on all of those kinds of rankings. It stands alone, fairly far up as an Ontario example. The climate is the one drawback, as anyone in Ottawa today would tell you.
James, we can't talk about the good without talking about the bad, and not to name names, but let's name names. Who came in last in Ontario?
We choose not to identify. This is not a list of the least livable cities. So we always like to highlight the cities that are doing well and talk about what they are doing as strong examples. I will tell you that we have published our list of the 100 most livable cities. If you go on our tool, though, and are curious to know how your particular community is doing, type the name in. It will tell you exactly what the ranking is for that city out of the 450 some odd across the country that we're ranking.
That makes sense. The goal is not to shame. I see. So the top 100 is there, but you can still search your own city if it's over 10,000, and you'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you'll be able to find out exactly where you stand, and there is if you are a true data nerd and want to look at a big table of all of the numbers, you can find that on our site as well.
All right, we'll be there. James, how often does a mayor get you on the phone and to complain about this?
We haven't had a lot of complaints. I think in almost all instances, we are not telling people things that they don't know. So for all of these communities, if they have challenges, they're aware of them. And if they are, what happens more often is because this is a listing of a whole bunch of communities, many of which people have heard of, and others that they haven't. We do get a lot of mayors and local officials being excited about the fact that their communities have been recognized. And that's just because we are working from, environics data, StatsCan definitions, and therefore, even if a community isn't particularly well known, it still shows up on our radar.
Mm-hmm. And you're helping the conversation, right? I mean, this data was not crunched in this way. People weren't looking at this with this kind of detail. So you are doing a real service to these communities and maybe inspiring some of them to do better.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping. And one of the things that we've started to do over the last few years is also highlight communities that are improving, that are, making big jumps on our listings. And you see that in many instances, it's not because that they have done poorly on our ranking in the past, but it's certainly there are trends that can be pointed towards that other cities could be inspired by. They are investing in their park system. They are investing in walkability. They are investing in healthcare. And it really is making a big difference. To call out one example, Burlington's moved up 6 spots on our ranking over the last few years. And they are seeing a real boon to their economy and a growing sense of community. So you can see these things actually really matter.
James, before we let you go, anything about Canada's most livable cities that we didn't cover tonight that perhaps we should have?
The only thing I would say is as I hinted at before, we welcome argument, we welcome debate. If people look at this listing and say to themselves, that's crazy, or you've forgotten something, or you've missed something, we love to hear from you. And every year we're in our 3rd edition now, and every time we roll it out, we tweak the methodology a little bit. We add new things, and that's all because of an ongoing conversation with our readers. So that you want to email me and tell me I'm an idiot, you can find my email on the Globe and Mail website, and I'd more than be happy to hear from you.
All right, good stuff. There's James Cowan, the investing and personal finance editor at the Globe and Mail. Great stuff, James. Appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks so much.
It's funny. We kind of look at life in 3 phases, right? BK before kids, K kids, and AK after kids.
Yeah.
And that kind of speaks to how they, kind of categorize that.
It's true. And it's actually just seeing James, full disclosure, James and I have been in this business at the same time. We've worked at various places together. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but we've kind of grown up in this business and we're right around the same age. So you think about how you started out before you had kids. You're thinking about where you're going to live, how you're going to live. And that's as your kids get off and go off to university or college and move out. And then the next stage is when you're heading out into retirement.
Well, priorities shift, right?
Priority shift. Yeah. This is a fascinating. I would encourage anyone to check out this Most Livable Cities tool. It's fascinating. There's all kinds of search criteria you can use. See what you want. You want to see where your hometown is, right? And you want to see if, more importantly, if they've gotten worse or gotten better over the last year, which is really interesting.
I got into it on the weekend. I was in my chair, on my laptop, read the article, got into the tool, and then next thing I know, I'm checking real estate in North Vancouver. Like I'm all over the place checking things.
You going to move to North Vancouver?
I don't think I can afford
the most livable city. Yeah.
Well, not based on this fella's income.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Good stuff. Thanks to James for joining the show tonight. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. Where do you live and how livable is it? Where are you ranked? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. While you're there, sign up and we'll send you episodes each and every day right to your inbox at closerlookpodcast.ca. For Derek Turner, executive producer of this evening's program, and of course, Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for your time tonight. Let's do it again tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.